Is it okay to not forgive as long as you're not falling into hatred? Good morning, my friends. It is I, John, here in the fabulous John Studios, drinking my coffee with you this morning. I had this comment come on the channel, and I thought I'd hop on and reply to it, but I want to read it fully through so you guys get the understanding of what it is that I'm answering. I'm reading the impact statements in the Ethan Crumbley trial. He was a high school student who killed 4 fellow students and injured others. One of the educators who was injured said in her statement, "There is no forgiveness for you, but I have found that I do not need to forgive you to live a life full of kindness and compassion for both myself and others." This statement really resonates with me because I think it's okay not to forgive as long as you aren't holding on to hatred, which I think is damaging to yourself. What do you think of this concept in general of not forgiving people who do awful things? And that advice, and what advice do you give for victims of heinous crimes in terms of moving on? It's a great question, and it's a tragic circumstance that we're even having this question arise. But I wanted to hop on and talk about this because there's a lot in this statement. Let's go back to what the teacher said. There is no forgiveness for you, but I found that I do not need to forgive you to live a life of kindness and compassion for both myself and others. That is a conditional loving experience. She's actually saying, I will not love you, right? The reality of it is what you don't need to forgive is the action. The person committed the action out of their own fears, anxieties, stresses. Something happened in their life to make them commit such heinous acts. And to live the rest of your life not forgiving them, right, is focused on them as opposed to the act. And when you look at this statement, the idea of living a compassionate life for myself and others, but I have no compassion for you, is the statement. She's saying, I'm not holding on. You're asking about not holding on to hatred. Having no compassion for him is holding on to hatred. Having no compassion for the person who committed a heinous act because for some reason in their life, they were shown harmful, conditional love that made them feel like they needed to do something powerful to feel like they were seen. I think it's not about forgiveness as much as it is understanding. When you look at my father, for instance, he was not nice to me. He was not a nice man to me. His father wasn't a nice man, right? I had to forgive my father because my father was a child inside of a man's body who was still trying to prove he was powerful for his father. And until I was able to look at him from the perspective of that poor child who had that abusive alcoholic father, was just perpetuating the traumas done to him. In that regard, I can forgive him because he didn't know any better. I never have to forgive what he did. I never have to like what he did, and I never have to like him. But I can come to an understanding through compassion of understanding how he came to that place to do those horrible things. Focusing the energy on not forgiving him, it all it does is kicks the can down the road. It literally doesn't come to the place of releasing. See, this whole statement, though it sounds beautiful, is still focused on knocking that young boy down. I don't forgive you, right? That's focused from one person to another person. It's not looking at the whole picture. It's looking at wanting justice. And though it is, you can be compassionate, you can be loving, but you have to understand the person who did something horrific did so for a reason. And they may not fully understand the reason. They more than likely don't fully understand the reason, which is why they just did it without a thought, because of the idea that they didn't know any better. Their mind took them to that place because something in their life had made them feel powerless. So they went out and did a powerful act to feel powerful. Not forgiving them is living a compassionate kindness and compassion for both myself and others, but not being kind to this one kid who did this horrific thing because that kid was a victim himself. To me, that's unloving. To me, that is telling that kid that he's evil or he's bad. That is literally knocking this child who needs to be shown what unconditional love is. That's showing that kid another condition of love. That kid will go to jail for the rest of his life, probably. And he'll never know what unconditional love is. Because in prison, he's not going to get it. In prison, he is not going to get unconditional love. Right? That kid is going to suffer the rest of his life. That kid who didn't know any better is going to suffer the rest of his life. And you taking the last act to tell him, I don't forgive you. To me, that's just piling on more harm to that child. I don't like anything that kid did. I don't like a lot of things about this entire situation. But I think you need to step back and understand that life is just experiences. And sometimes those experiences make us feel powerless and weak and unloved. And I can tell you that from my own personal perspective because I felt unloved for a long time. And when someone tells you, when you are stressed and in a space of mental abuse or physical abuse or made to feel like you're worthless and you have no power, some people just strive to be powerful. You know, bullies are usually victims. And until someone recognizes that child inside who needs unconditional love, they're just going to continue to be a victim of the world. I love this question, and I understand where you're coming from, and I understand where the teacher's coming from. But that teacher, for the rest of her life, by her declaration here, will probably think terribly of that kid. Will think, I don't forgive you because you're bad. I don't forgive you because you're, the person who committed this horrible act. That response does not in any way, shape, or form get to the root of the problem of why he committed the act. And until you have compassion enough to look at why, and just rather than just condemn and judge and tell that child that he's not forgiven, then you're actually condemning yourself as a judgmental person. And yeah, you can be a judgmental person who can be kind and compassionate for others. But if you're limiting that love, that compassion, that kindness from anybody else, then you're just judging. Judge not, lest you shall be judged. That's my thought on this. You guys have a great day. and I'll talk to you soon. See ya. Bye.